What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Guys, it's been well documented at this point. The Indianapolis Colts pull off the upset against the Kansas City Chiefs. So, for the topic of this video, we wanted to kind of look at a lot of different young guys, right? Some young guys who were key contributors in yesterday's victory, some young guys who maybe are struggling right now, and just talking about how, moving forward for the Colts, they need to be able to rely on some of these young guys to have success. And so I wanted to kind of start, Derek, by talking about the guys who stood out yesterday, some guys who were like rookies and second-year players and things of that nature, some guys who really contributed to the Colts pulling off that upset and getting their first win of the year. And we'll start on the offensive side of things, talk about the guy who talk about a career day, man. Talk about a first and second NFL catch. Couldn't come at a better time. Jelani Woods, a guy who's been lost in the shuffle a lot this year. People were wondering, after he was drafted in training camp, where was Jelani Woods? And we were even asking the question, man, first couple weeks of the season, Jelani Woods didn't get looks at all. And we're just like, what in the world is going on? Like, where is this guy? He's 6'7". Why are we not utilizing him, especially in the red zone, right? And so Jelani Woods is coming on, and man, the come on party for Jelani Woods was huge on Sunday. Talk to me about Jelani Woods and kind of what you saw from him yesterday and what the Colts are going to need from him moving forward.
Well, he only had 2 catches in the game, but he made both of those catches count. They were the 2 biggest plays of the entire day for Indianapolis. So, it all comes down to that, unfortunately, when you're a rookie and you're kind of lost in the shuffle a little bit, trying to find your way, you might only get those few opportunities to make plays. And, I think that that's one thing Kylan Granson definitely did throughout the day as well, as long as with Jelani. Kylan did it in a different kind of way throughout the day, but he had plays. But Jelani, we talked about it. You're right. Like, he was at a point where he was almost listed as tight end 4 to start the offseason before Drew Ogletree ended up having that tear and then ended up ending his season. And obviously Jelani now tight end 3, but he only needed 2 looks to really change the outlook of this game. And, he did it in the way that I think most people assumed he would, right? And the fact that he's 6'7", dude can run as fast as any other tight end out there. And, he's just a size and mismatch for anyone, man. That's what it was. Matt Ryan, just throw the ball up to him and then just as long as Jelani gets his hands on it, more than likely he's coming down with it because physically he's just so much bigger than anyone else that steps in his way. So that was really it. That's all you needed, just a sliver of an opening. And if Matt Ryan was able to get it into his hands, then Jelani was coming down with it. And it was great. The energy in that place was crazy before that and after that. That was a huge, huge day. And you're right. Talk about a first NFL memory, right? First NFL game where we saw Jelani actually get involved in the passing game. And he was pretty much our entire offense. You think about it from the scoring production standpoint. So, yeah, it was great to see Jelani, step in and do that. And maybe that could be the tipping point into we start seeing him get utilized more in the red zone for, maybe more usage now because you showed it. Even in the middle of the field, it's not even like it was a jump ball. He got that touchdown in the middle of the field too. So maybe that is something we start to see more of him doing that in the red zone sort of area. But it was a great first start. Love to see it when the offense was really struggling all day to get anything going. Jelani really provided that big spark.
Well, I was going to say, the first couple weeks, especially the Colts have struggled in the red zone, right? That's been an issue for them. And so we were just wondering, like, okay, you have a 6'7" guy that you're not using. Why wouldn't you use him and at least give him an opportunity? And it's great to see him help this offense, be better in the red zone. And also just for him and his confidence. I think there were some questions like, is Jelani just lacking confidence right now in himself as a player? Because he hasn't really done much. He didn't do a whole lot in training camp. He did a little bit in the preseason, but there was a lot of hype around him when he was originally drafted by the Colts. And, that kind of faded really fast, at least early on. And so great to see him getting some confidence. And, he can only build on from this. This is only the beginning for Jelani Woods. And that should be exciting in itself. The Colts have a mismatch nightmare right now at tight end. And a guy that's confident, that's scary and should be very, very scary for opposing defenses and very, very intriguing and tantalizing for this Colts offense and the way they're going to scheme him up. I'm really excited to see, do they continue to go back to him, continue to build confidence in him because they need him. They really need Jelani Woods to step up into this red zone threat that he showed yesterday. So really excited for that. You already mentioned Kylan Granson, who I want to talk about. Didn't pop off the screen in terms of stats, but he had a couple key catches. He had that fumble recovery, that muffed punt recovery as well. So, the guy, didn't necessarily have a huge highlight play, but he was consistent. And I think when he was thrown to, he did exactly what he needed to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think he only had the one catch in the day, but that was at the end of the day when, the drives needed to happen and they mattered. So at the end of the day, that was a very important catch. And it was a great catch too. I mean, in one of those scenarios where you would expect normally that Kylan Granson would have potentially dropped it in most scenarios, but had a great thing going there. And, special teams, yeah, like you said, he got that big fumble recovery in the moment where the Colts, one of their only two scores that they actually had in that game, was right there. And he had a couple other big plays in the special teams as well. So it's great to see Kylan getting involved in the special teams too. Just another way to get him involved and use his kind of skill set of his, ability to make plays out in the middle of the field. That's kind of what they're wanting to use him for right now. And I mean, it's great. It's awesome to see him actually getting involved in that. So if you can't always get involved in the offense, that's what the Colts will do. They'll try to get you some plays here and there on special teams. And Kylan took advantage of his snaps when he actually had the chance to.
Absolutely. Stan, one more pass catcher I want to highlight. Alec Pierce, who I thought had a really nice day, is obviously overshadowed by Jelani Woods' huge day. But, Alec Pierce had a couple nice receptions, kind of big receptions too. They weren't like the 50-yard bomb or anything like that, but consistent, 10 to 15-yard catches when it mattered. And so love to see that from Alec Pierce, proving, to be a legit weapon. Clearly his best day as a pro so far, and proving to be a legitimate number two beside Pittman. I thought he did a great job taking the pressure off of Pittman, who obviously led the Colts in catches and things like that. But I thought Pierce was a nice number two yesterday.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we saw what happened week one. Those jitters really got to him big time. And then, you're coming off of a concussion too. There was probably a lot of pressure on Alec coming into this game, knowing that the first 2 weeks of his NFL career was not a good first 2 weeks. So, coming back in to Lucas Oil and, having the chance to right that wrong, he definitely did that. 3 catches for 61 yards. And they were big catches, the kind of catches that we're expecting from Alec Pierce, right? The vertical routes down the field, 50-50, go get it because you're a physical mismatch for any corner. It's those kinds of things, right? And the big one from when he was when the Colts were down at the 2-yard line and he had that 25-yarder that put him away from there and, was able to get them in great position. I mean, that's the kind of thing we were looking for, right? I mean, and especially at the end of the game, he had one good catch there at the end of the game that mattered. It was really odd, Cody, because obviously the offense never got anything going throughout the majority of the game. They had a very difficult time, and I broke that down in a video that we did before, talking about, the offensive line and the play calling still being bad and things of that nature. But it was nice to see, in the biggest of moments when it really needed to happen, the Colts offense did deliver. And it was great seeing guys like Alec Pierce and Jelani being able to step into those roles and provide that spark. And like you said, Michael Pittman had a solid day yesterday. Nothing crazy from him, but he was the most consistent. And then, Alec Pierce having a couple of big catches that help move the ball down the field. I mean, that's all you can ask for and you hope that it continues to, like what you said with Jelani, with being able to provide confidence for him now, right? It's like, okay, I can catch the ball. Okay, I can go and make the contested catches. Okay, I can get yards after catch. I can do this. I showed I can. Now I need to go do it even more. So you hope now that could be the stepping stone for Alec Pierce into maybe him doing a lot more going forward.
And at least for the moment, it is kind of calmed a little bit of, and including me right now, we'll see how it goes on. Obviously, they have to continue it up. But I've been calling for a veteran wide receiver, but if Alec Pierce can do what he did yesterday, that'll definitely help a lot, moving forward. That'll help take the pressure off of Pittman. And if Jelani Woods can be getting open, that'll help take the pressure off of other guys as well. And just give Matt Ryan more weapons to throw the ball to dish it out to, make the offense a lot less predictable out there. Obviously Pittman's going to be your main guy, but if you have the threat of Pierce, you have the threat of Jelani Woods, that is scary, for NFL defenses. So need to see that continue from those guys. But that goes from the guys yesterday on the offensive side of things. I want to move on to the defense. There's just a few guys that I think really stood out yesterday.
What's going on, everybody? Today I wanted to talk to you about our sponsor, Betstamp. Now I know what you're thinking. Derek, another betting app? What is so different about this one now? Well, I got to tell you guys, I'm not into online gambling a whole lot and bets online and everything, but I got to tell you, Betstamp is one of the coolest things I have ever seen in regards to betting online. The great thing about Betstamp is it allows you to see all the different odds from all different sports books and see which one provides you the best odds possible for any game or scenario you want to bet on for your pick versus some of the worst. Betstamp allows you to also buy and sell picks that you have without worrying about losing your money or having any issues with it. Believe me, it's all free. I mean, look at this, guys. You have an option for every game across all different kinds of leagues in a ton of different ways. You have baseball, you have college football, UFC, NBA, and NFL. Great for the NFL season now being here. And if I wanted to bet on this Tennessee Titans versus Buffalo Bills game, it shows me in real time what are the best odds, which sports book I'm going to get the best offer from versus some of the worst ones. Because why would you want to earn less money from PointsBet when you could be winning more from ProLine Plus? Again, a great thing that Betstamp offers you, allowing you to make more money for the same pick just with a different sports book. How easy is that? And the great thing is there's not just games. There's player props, there's game props, there's lines, there's live tracking. There's a ton of great ways to make bets and picks on Betstamp, guys. Totally a cool thing to use. I highly encourage you check it out if you're into any kind of online betting. Even if you're not, give it a check. See what you like about it, because I think I actually enjoy using it. But the best way to get an edge on online sports betting is having multiple accounts at different sports books. Be sure to hit the BetLink page, betstamp.app/onboarding. Be sure to check out the Betstamp app or online, and be sure to use the referral code JUICE, plug in your state, and you'll get access to all their affiliates and their prices once you open it up, seeing all states' lines. Be sure to check this out, guys. You won't want to miss it for the best odds on your next sports bet.
Want to first talk about Dio Adangbo, and I'll throw Kwity Paye in there as well. Although I do feel like Dio had probably a little bit of a better day. Seems like he was more highlighted than Kwity was. They both, I thought, had really good days getting after the passer, creating disruption, making Mahomes uncomfortable out there. What did you see from both the young pass rushers the Colts have?
Well, the pass rush in general yesterday was a whole hell of a lot better than what it was the first 2 weeks. Yannick Ngakoue was the guy that really was the staple of the whole day. He was definitely in Mahomes' head quite a bit yesterday. There's a lot of film from that Yannick's presence in and of itself was causing Mahomes to make bad decisions. But you're right. Kwity Paye showed a lot of heart too, even when there were plays on the sidelines. I was seeing Kwity Paye making tackles on the sidelines, gang tackles with all these other guys. That's the kind of effort that I want to see. And Dio's starting to finally get a few more reps on the defensive line now. And the Colts mentioned that. Gus Bradley mentioned that they wanted to start getting a better rotation of these guys on the defensive line. And it certainly felt like they did that yesterday. It seemed like Tyquan was in for a few plays. Dio was in for a few plays, guys like that. So it was nice seeing a little bit of a rotation there. And I don't know. I don't know what exactly it was that just got this Colts team doing better. But, I mean, yeah, guys like Dio and Quiddy definitely stepped up in a big way. And overall, the defensive line in general stepped up in a big way yesterday. Pressuring Mahomes on 38% of his dropbacks definitely is a very encouraging sign, regardless of if Mahomes held on to the ball too long or not. That's still a really great job by the defensive line and the young guys for finally stepping up and providing the pass rush that we expected.
It's so weird how it's completely flipped from a week ago to what we saw on Sunday. Completely different. The Colts weren't able to touch Trevor Lawrence a week ago, like at all. And the fact that the Colts, it was like the least pressured that Lawrence had ever been in his NFL career. And then Patrick Mahomes gets pressured 38%, nearly 40% of his dropbacks. Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
And so, there's always those people who say, well, you guys have changed your tune quickly. Well, this team looked completely different yesterday than they did on defense.
Of course, there's like a couple reasons why you would say that, right? Because obviously Patrick Mahomes on average was holding on to the ball a second longer on average than what Lawrence was, which obviously, when you look at it from that perspective, that means that, there's a lot more chances for the Colts to get after the quarterback. But then again, that also results in the scheme changing. I'm sure that Bradley kind of changed a few things up. They played a little more man. They changed up a few things personnel-wise. They had some guys up a little more so the Chiefs couldn't methodically just go down the field. And that's what the Chiefs do, right? The Chiefs' offense is built on making those big, big plays, right? Jacksonville's offense isn't quite the same as that. So, the Chiefs go off of the big plays, and the Colts did a good job of preventing that. And, the secondary was another big reason as to why. But yeah, when your quarterback holds onto the ball for just a little bit longer, that defensive line gets a little bit more of a chance. But even then, like you said, from Jacksonville week, even when the times Trevor Lawrence held onto the ball for more than 3 seconds, still felt like the Colts never got close to him at all. But it felt like almost every other drop back from Mahomes, the Colts, at least one guy was in his face, at least making it difficult, or at least having it in the back of Mahomes' mind. I mean, Yannick pretty much was in Mahomes' head from the get-go, man. There was a play where Yannick came off the edge, wasn't even close to Mahomes, but when Mahomes saw him coming back from behind him, he fell down and threw the ball. Like, I mean, that goes to show you just how much that Yannick was in his head, and that was what the defensive line pressure was doing to the Chiefs. So, it was completely different from week 2 to week 3. Even if there was a change in how the offenses ran things, the defense still took advantage.
Yeah, and you talked about the secondary. I suppose we can hop there and talk about some of those guys out there. Obviously, Isaiah Rodgers, a guy that, finally got some snaps on defense, a guy that we felt like needed to be getting more, at least be on the field for some amount of time. He got on the field, again, 24 snaps or something like that. So still want him to get more snaps, but it's a start.
It was a start, and I think
Rodney
it definitely
Thomas
helped.
as well, man. Rodney Thomas looked really good when Julian Blackmon went out of that game and got downgraded to out. I thought he stepped up in a big way.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that is not an easy thing to step into when your starting safety is one of the better young starting safeties in the league, you would think. And then, playing against the freaking Kansas City Chiefs. And then that pass block, right? That pass deflection at the end of the second quarter, right when it was about to go into halftime. And there was that single high safety look, and that tight end almost broke it and almost had a touchdown. Rodney Thomas just comes out of nowhere to deflect that pass. He's not there for that. That's a touchdown. Kansas City's up 2 scores going into halftime, and this game might have been different. This game might have been completely different from that point. So you're right. Rodney Thomas coming in, stepping into a very, very difficult situation, and the defense still not looking like it dropped off at all. That's a very positive sign. I mean, it's just crazy, Cody, that the defense just looked so different. I can't quite put my finger on it as to what it was that changed this defense so much. I mean, it's not like Jacksonville's offense is better than the Kansas City Chiefs. No one's saying that. So it's like, why is it that all of a sudden, all of this just decided to change? But I mean, Rodney Thomas, he stepped in. To his credit, he stepped in, didn't give up any big plays, and that's what matters here.
Yeah, especially with the question marks after Corey Willis retired, about safety. Like what are you going to do about that? And Rodney Thomas, at least for the moment, has helped to kind of calm those fears a little bit. Like you feel like, okay, if something happens to one of your safeties, knock on wood, obviously, but you have a guy in there in Rodney Thomas who played well as a rookie. So that's encouraging moving forward. And yeah, I'm just excited to see him because we knew he was physically gifted, coming out. We knew that, but the question was, how raw is he at this point, right? Because some people had him listed as a corner, some people had him listed as a safety. It's like, what's that going to look like? Because we've had, moderate success with a guy like Marvell Tell for a year. So it's just like you just don't know with some of those guys, especially guys drafted that late in the draft. But the Colts might have found a gem there in Rodney Thomas. We'll see if he can continue that moving forward. I wanted to also just kind of talk about some guys, Derek, that need to step it up a little bit. Whether they've been playing outright terrible, whether they just haven't really been making much of an impact. Some guys that we need to see, some of these young, rookie or second year players that really need to take a step if the Colts want to continue on their win streak. If they want to extend their win streak to another win moving forward and get back on track the next couple weeks here. So a couple of those guys I want to talk about. We got to talk about Danny Pinter, and we have to talk about him. I don't know if he technically qualifies. I think he's like a third-year guy, but still, he's in a young category, I would say. But he's looked terrible. I mean, I'm not going to hold any bones here. He's looked awful at right guard. He's getting bulldozed. He's getting beat. Just looks like an absolute liability out there right now. What do you need to see from him, man?
Oh, I mean, we just got to see more of what we saw from him in 2021. I mean, to his credit, the entire right side of the offensive line has looked terrible from the get-go of this year. I mean, Ryan Kelly's not looked good. Danny Pinter hasn't looked good. Braden Smith hasn't looked good. So, there has been some miscommunications with Matt Ryan as well, and especially with him and Ryan Kelly. That's definitely a different video. But yeah, I mean, definitely a guy that needs to step up because, we heard from Frank Reich that, no changes to the offensive line have been discussed yet. Maybe another week or two. I really don't want to see another week or two of Matt Ryan being sacked 4 times before the Colts coaching staff finally gets the memo that this offensive line coaching staff is not doing a good job of teaching these guys and that there's a change that probably needs to be made at some point because Matt Ryan's a tough guy, but, to keep getting sacked 4 times a game is not going to do any good for you.
And the sad thing is the Colts probably could have won. They probably could have blown out the Chiefs with how poor the Chiefs played in certain times yesterday. But because of the poor offensive line play, that kept the Chiefs in this game, I feel like, to a big degree. So, we talk about the wide receivers and tight ends stepping up. The offensive line really held this team back from what they could have done on offense yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, Matt Ryan has a part in that as well. But, yeah, guys like Danny Pinter especially need to step it up in a major way because if he doesn't, he's going to be benched, I think, sooner rather than later because it's been bad so far. Another guy I want to talk about as well that needs to step it up, I think Nick Cross as well. He only got 1 snap yesterday, and that should be just getting our attention a little bit. Maybe the Colts don't feel like Nick Cross is as ready as they thought initially because Rodney McLeod got a lot more snaps, who he was kind of battling with all, training camp and preseason and stuff like that. Nick Cross needs to step it up as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you're right. When we saw him in training camp, he was looking really great, really explosive. But it's obvious from the first week, we saw him getting, out of position quite a few times. And it's been increasingly obvious that, there's been a change that's needed. And I mean, I think that's one of the things that I agreed with Gus Bradley that, having Rodney McLeod in there right now, primarily for the majority of the time, is what this defense really needs because Rodney McLeod's normally in the better spots for the majority of the time. I don't approve of Nick Cross only getting one snap. He's not going to get any better by him only playing one defensive snap. So, hopefully they get him in there for, at least around 10 snaps a game at this point to try to still get him to improve going forward. But yes, as you said, like it's obvious that the Colts needed to make a change there. You hope that at some point, later on down throughout the season, you can be more open about what you think Nick Cross can provide for the defense.
I that was all the guys I had, Derek. I didn't know if you had any other guys that we wanted to highlight. Some of the another young guy or two that needs to step up. Those are the guys I had.
I think you pretty much got all of them for me. I just want to see, I want to see Kwity Paye continue to do more. I want to see him continue to get more pressure because, I mean, Paye in and of himself didn't really get a ton of pressures yesterday. Like I said, I thought he did a great job with tackles in the open field and, being more involved in the run game as well. But I do want to see him continue to build off of what we saw week one, where he had those 2 sacks. He hasn't had a sack since. And, he's looked like he's been getting just absolutely destroyed ever since then in the passing department. So we'll see how he performs in that aspect. I want to see him continue to do more. But other than that, I think we covered everybody that we had.
Cool. All right, guys, let us know your thoughts on any other players that you would say you want to see more from some of these younger guys here. Let us know those things in the comments below. That'll do it for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for all your support. And as always, guys, go Colts.